Welcome to the show, everybody. I'm your host, Jennifer Boozer, owner and founder of CannaBama in downtown Mobile. We are located at 558 St. Francis Street in downtown. We're open 7 days a week. Our phone number is 251-255-5155. Our website is CannaBama.com. And of course, we have Sweet Home CannaBama on Facebook, Instagram, X, YouTube, and soon to be on TikTok, if they will let us stay. So welcome to the show. We're here every Monday night, and we want to talk about all things cannabis. So tonight, before we get into our guest, I want to do a little legislative housekeeping. This is relevant to Alabama. We all know that our medical cannabis program is hopelessly stalled in lawsuits and corruption, no matter what anybody else wants to admit. But here's something interesting. And this always kills me when we're talking about Alabama, because we all know we're a very poor state. You know, the poverty level here is shameful, and the vast majority of people live within that poverty level. And so people who are needing medical cannabis the most, these are people that have children with catastrophic seizure disorders. These are people with end-stage cancer. These are people with MS, severely autistic children. These are people who live on disability most of the time. So very, very limited income. And I work with these people because they spend every moment of their free time fighting to get this medicine. So that's why this makes me angry, and I'm going to bring it up, even though it doesn't have anything to do with our topic. But in Coleman County, Alabama, they are voting whether or not to add a 15% tax for the county on medical cannabis products. So I did a little research. The sales tax here in Mobile is 10%. In Coleman, it's only 9%. The state sales tax increase on medical cannabis products that's worked into the bill is another 9%. So now we're at 18%. So if you add 15% on top of the percentage the county is already getting, that puts 33% tax rate. For Coleman County, a very rural county, a very poor county, the people in that county will now have to either pay 33% tax, or they will have to drive hours to another dispensary, because we all know 37 dispensaries for 67 counties means a lot of counties with no dispensaries whatsoever or any near them. So I think this is heinous on the part of Coleman County. I've never been to Coleman. I'm not even exactly sure where it is, but it ain't around here. But why is this relevant to this program? Because guess what, guys? If Coleman County does this, just like everything else, what are the chances the other counties are not going to try to do this too? We're already pricing ourselves out. We don't even have a functioning program. So if you give two craps about the people, the sick and suffering and dying people in Alabama who are the ones waiting for this, then you need to get in touch with Coleman County and figure out how we shut this down, because this is egregious and it's shameful, especially given the fact that most of us are struggling to buy food. That's all I'm going to say about that. Call Coleman County. What is that? Oh, I'm sorry. All right, tonight I want to introduce our guest. Dr. Bridget Cole Williams, MD, is a compassionate medical cannabis specialist and empowerment coach with practices in Ohio and Michigan. Founder and former CEO of Green Harvest Health, she advocates for patient-centered care and the benefits of medical cannabis. Board certified in family medicine, Dr. Bridget combines holistic practices with medical cannabis consultations. She is the best-selling author of Courage in Cannabis. I'm in volume 2. A series highlighting stories of cannabis and CBD usage. Dr. Bridget serves on the advisory board for Forbes Health and collaborates with educators on curriculum development for Cleveland School of Cannabis, Oaksterdam University, and most recently, Johns Hopkins University. Curator and formulator of 2 CBD lines, Dr. Bridget has rolled her medical cannabinoid and adaptogen knowledge into her latest venture, the Blossom Bar. The Blossom Bar is a mobile infused mocktail bar service further expanding her impact on the medical cannabis community. Dr. Bridget, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. I'm so excited to be here with you today.
Well, tell us a little bit about how you got into cannabis. We know I know you became a doctor. How did you become a cannabis doctor?
Honestly, it really started fairly early in my career where I was already frustrated with traditional medicine, that for every diagnosis, there's a pill. If you don't like that pill, there's another pill. And it was a factory job. You know, I'm seeing patients every 10 to 15 minutes, and God forbid you take a breath, right? And my patients were frustrated. I was frustrated. And I started gathering a small group of people that wanted to get off of medication. So I started putting them on my lunch hour at the end of the day. And we really started working on behavioral change and lifestyle change and slowly taking them off of medications. One of those people was a breast cancer survivor and a new diabetic. And she mentioned, what about cannabis as an option? I thought she was nuts. I looked it up, saw all of this information that I never even knew existed. And that was really the beginning for me.
That and that just goes to highlight how most medical schools aren't teaching anything about the endocannabinoid system and the use of cannabis as a medicine.
Right. But, you know, at that time, you know, it wasn't really discovered until about 1991, 92. And, you know, things, there definitely is a block in getting that information out because of the pharmaceutical companies or what have you. We're much better now than we were 10 years ago as far as this information getting into medical schools, and the medical students are now asking for it at this point, you know. So we're getting there.
I have seen pharmacy students posting on social media their curriculum, learning about the endocannabinoid system and cannabis as medicine in pharmacy schools, which I find very encouraging.
Yeah, I think they're a little bit more open to this than, and you would think that there would be a stronghold with them as well, but they've been a little bit more progressive, as well as the nursing schools have been more progressive, I feel.
Right. Well, I'm sure people in pharmacies, they deal with natural medicine items, vitamin C and B vitamins and vitamin D. They have to know about those things because they're in their pharmacies. And so I think maybe they are more open-minded because that's what they're already doing with other plant products.
Yeah. I mean, so we all should know better, but you know, we'll see.
But they're not FDA approved.
Yes.
All right. Well, tonight we want to talk about women's health. Women's health is obviously a big subject, very important one. Between puberty, childbirth, infant loss, caregiving, marriage, work, sleep, stress, sex, nutrition, we deal with constant hormonal changes. And I think it's safe to say we could all use a little help with this. So let's talk about a topic that will make some of the fellas that listen a little antsy, but we're going to talk about menopause tonight. Is that cool with you, Dr. Bridget?
Absolutely. And you know, this is why. Tell me, okay, I have a question for you. Why do men get antsy around the conversation of menopause?
Right, like they don't have wives that have periods and
or sisters or mothers,
and breast milk leakage and all the things. Sorry, guys, we're going to get into it tonight.
Yes.
Yeah. So, okay. So here's some of the symptoms, just some of the symptoms of menopause. And I'm sure people going through it would tell me, I'm going to read these and we're going to go to break. Hot flashes. Ooh. In the South, night sweats. Again, not a fan. Insomnia. You're sweating and you can't sleep. Fatigue because you can't sleep. Bloating, irritability, depression, anxiety, weight gain. One that comes to mind that I've heard a lot is memory fog, like brain fog, inability to focus, vaginal dryness. Let's get into it. You know, painful sex, low libido. All of those things are symptoms of your hormones going through another major life change. And none of that sounds any good, right?
Yeah. we did talk about the negative aspects of menopause, but
Yes.
I personally believe, and I think other women would agree, that there is light at the end of this tunnel, at the end of this
Hold that
journey.
thought. We've got to go to a commercial break. We'll be right back with more with Dr. Bridget.
Great.
Welcome back, everybody. Tonight we're talking with Dr. Bridget Williams, MD. She has a medical cannabis practice in both Ohio and Michigan. Dr. Bridget, we want to talk about women's health issues. Specifically tonight, we're talking about menopause. I just, before the break, listed hot flashes, night sweats, insomnia, fatigue, bloating, all that stuff. Have you had any personal experience with these things?
I am in the journey, Jennifer.
Yes.
I'm in the midst of it, and over the last year and a half, I would say 2 years, I've seen quite a bit of it.
Yeah. I think I'm at the very front end of it. I mean, it
Yes.
makes sense for my age, but
Mhm.
things are just weird. They're different. And you just wake up one day and you're like, wait a minute, what?
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
it's a little confusing, for the because no, just like everything else, no two experiences are the same.
Yeah.
Um, do you see many women with these symptoms in your practice?
Absolutely. I mean, so let's define a little bit, like if you're perimenopausal versus menopausal, just for
Yes.
clarity. Okay, so perimenopausal, which is really someone that's between like 40, 44 years old or what have you, you're actually in a space where your periods are changing, that
Mm-hmm.
the cycle ends up being longer, it's shorter. You might have a space of like 60 days or so where your periods might just drop off altogether and then they come back. And
Right.
so you might have hot flashes or some of these other symptoms that you've mentioned, but not necessarily. Where
Right.
menopause is when you have stopped having periods for 12 months. Let me be very
Right.
clear. If you get to 11 months and start having a period, you know, you kind of
I have
start
done
the
that
clock
many
all
times
over again.
throughout my life. When I was a teenager, it would be like 12 to 18 months. I was
Yeah.
told twice I might never have children. I had
Right.
3.
So more irregular periods when we're younger, but when this happens at this stage of the game, the clock starts
Right.
over. If you go
Right.
12 months without a period and then 18 months into this, you have one, definitely go to your doctor. You need to make sure, or definitely 3 or 4 years after you've stopped completely, definitely go to
Right.
your doctor because some things can be wrong that you might not expect.
Right.
So don't
That's not
ignore that.
normal.
Right.
Yeah.
And then if you've had a hysterectomy, which a lot of women have, but you still have your ovaries, you might not understand or know when you're going through menopause, but it's when you start to have a culmination of the symptoms that we've described and you
Right.
start realizing, gee, things are a little bit different and you don't have that same marker of it as
Right.
you do, but you can get your hormone levels checked, which will tell you whether you're perimenopausal or menopausal.
So for the sake of my friend who's having a hysterectomy in a week, she's going to be immediately thrown into this, right? Because they're going to remove her hormone producing organs, and she will no longer have those hormones. And so she
Not
will immediately,
necessarily.
how soon is a surgical patient going to have symptoms?
So if she keeps her ovaries, which most, I mean, depending on why you're having your hysterectomy, most of the time you keep your ovaries, you're not
Mhm.
thrust into menopause. So because
Okay.
your ovaries are still producing your hormones, so
Right.
everything's about the same. You'll feel the same post, after you recover from surgery, except for you don't have the issues that whatever brought you to having the uterus removed.
Right.
If
Right.
you have your ovaries removed, then you will be thrust into early menopause. And so that's a little
Right.
bit different.
Yeah. How soon is the onset of those symptoms? Do you know?
It
For
kind
a
of
surgical
depends
patient,
on,
if one day has ovaries, the next day doesn't?
right. I mean, it can happen fairly quickly, but it depends on what's going on with you in the first place, because there might have been some hormonal issues that got you to
Right.
that place to begin with. So,
Well, and so speaking of hormones, I know that, hormone replacement therapy has always been the gold standard. I remember just as, when my son was born and I had my uterine and bladder rupture and things, and he was in NICU and dying, and they were doing everything they could to get me out of that hormonal storm. And they actually gave me an HRT patch that they give women for menopause,
mhm,
to try to kind of stem the up and down. And that's my only experience with it, obviously. But I did a little reading, and hormone replacement therapy has decreased like 80% in the last 20 years due
mhm,
to the side effects and the increased risk for developing breast cancer. I know a lot of women who use like wild yam cream and things like that, natural forms that can stimulate hormones. But given that you are in a cannabis practice, we want to talk about, what are people using naturally for hormones, but also how are they using cannabis to relieve
mhm,
those symptoms? Because I know in my experience, a lot of women are becoming aware of how therapeutic and how symptom relieving cannabis products
mhm,
can be for all of those issues, that wide array of issues. And I'm talking everything from bad PMS and endometriosis to, the worst of menopause, everything from that to sexual trauma and in between.
mhm.
So are
Let's
you seeing
clarify.
less people use hormone replacement therapy?
Let's clarify a little bit about the hormone replacement therapy because to be totally honest with you, it's been given a bad rap. Okay. When I was
Okay.
early in my residency, very quickly, oh, you're a woman of a certain age. It's like you gave it like water, right? Then we
Right.
learned about the Women's Health Initiative study, which was saying that if you're using HRT, you're more likely to have breast cancer. Okay.
Mhm.
So at that point, no one got it, right? I mean, it became,
Right.
you know, we don't do this anymore.
Right.
And we really kind of left women out there with really very little to zero options. Well,
Right.
they looked at what actually developed from that study, and it wasn't so much the HRT, the hormone replacement therapy, but it was the type of progesterone women were given at that time. Since
Right.
that time, hormone replacement therapy is different. It is actually with care and making sure what is your family history and what have you, it is now being prescribed again.
Okay.
And so for I still recommend let's do it as natural as possible. But I do
Right.
want to say to women, if you are miserable, if
Mm-hmm.
nothing is working, I am
Yeah.
not entirely anti-pharmaceutical. I do like natural approaches. I do like putting the power back into the patient's hand. But if you are
Right.
miserable, go to your doctor. HRT might be an option. I for 2 years I was going back and forth and going nuts and every all of the above. I finally did
Mm-hmm.
HRT, but it's
Yeah.
not the HRT that we had before. So I want to
Right.
make that clear to women. Okay.
Right. Yes.
In the
I'm sure
meantime,
that's probably the same for all forms of hormonal treatments. I'm sure that the medical advances, I mean, just stands to reason that they are more sophisticated and less
mhm.
dangerous. We hope.
Yes.
We
So I
hope.
it should be considered safe, accessible, reasonable, but you do need to talk to your doctor and make sure it's safe for you. But it's not the
Right.
HRT that
I
we had
mean,
in
there's a
first.
time and a place for everything. If I
Yes.
broke my leg, I wouldn't say, no, no, I don't want any conventional medicine intervention. I'll be like, somebody put a Dilaudid pump in this vein right here because I'm in pain. But it's temporary. You know,
Right,
when my leg is healed, then I don't need it anymore and I go back to my life. That's the way it was intended.
right,
But then people like me who had that physical injury got put on certain medications and spent 10 years trying to get off of them. You know,
right. So
that's
yeah,
where we fall into, I think, the myth of we can be pain free, stress free, perfect, feel great. All like, does anybody feel that?
no,
Whether you're taking
there's a
zero
human
prescriptions or 100,
absolutely.
you know, life is pain. Pain is there for a reason. Discomfort is a signal to do or not do something different.
Yeah, absolutely. And there is a human experience. And I think sometimes with technology, we're trying to avoid the human experience. But I also
Yes,
believe people should not have to suffer. And we do
right.
have options.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And some of those options are natural. I will tell you, I've more women coming to me asking for something for symptoms, but not saying directly, oh, I'm here for my menopause. So I end up
Right.
interjecting and saying, gee, we're talking about your anxiety and we're talking about your insomnia and we're talking about your irritability. And gosh, is there anything else? Are there like, are we talking about menopause or, I mean, keep in mind, you can have all
Are
these
we talking
symptoms.
about trauma? Are we, and that's another thing.
Exactly.
When women are going through this another stage of upheaval, if you have unresolved trauma, if you have an extremely stressful, broken life, you know, all of those things, or if you're in a bad marriage, or all of these things, you lose your job, can exacerbate those symptoms because of the uptick of pain that comes from the stress and the tension
Absolutely.
and the increased inability to really balance your own brain chemistry, much less your hormones.
Well, but I think it's incredibly important that women be identify what these symptoms are.
Yeah.
Talk to other women, talk to their doctor, because I think there's something incredibly powerful with getting through this journey of menopause. I
Right.
think you come out stronger and more in tune with who you are. But you have
Right.
to do the work. You have to do the work.
Yes. Yes. I have, I have been quit soda and coffee and sugar for about 9 weeks now. And I tell you, some days it's like getting off drugs again because, but I know that it's increasing my inflammation levels, which is keeping my hormones out of balance, which is keeping my brain chemistry out of balance. And how
Mhm.
can I take the medicine that I take if I'm putting all that back in? When we come back
Absolutely.
from the break, we've got more with Dr. Bridget. Stay with us. Welcome back, everybody. We're here every Monday night with Sweet Home CannaBama at 7 o'clock Central, right here on FM Talk 106.5. We're live streaming from the Sweet Home CannaBama pages on Facebook, Instagram, X, and you can hear the replay on all of your favorite podcast streaming services. A1A Productions Radio on Thursdays and Saturdays at 4:20, and very soon, should I tell them? Well, maybe I won't tell you, but we have something big. And I'm just being kind of selfish with it, but I can't wait to tell y'all. Anyway, back to Dr. Bridget. Tonight we're talking about menopause.
Yes.
And maybe we need to have a show with Dr. Boyette or somebody about menopause, because it is a thing. All right, so let's talk about, okay, I read this survey by Dahlgren et al. In 2022. It was 258 women that are peri or postmenopausal, and they were asking about their cannabis use. So 83.5% reported a history of regular use. That means once a month. I don't know about y'all, but I don't call that regular use. But that was, so they use it at least once a month. 78.7% of those regular users reported using cannabis to treat menopause related symptoms such as sleep, 67.4%, mood and anxiety, 46.1%, and libido, 30.4%. I'm in here going, where's the cramps and the back pain, and where are those people at? Because if that's the top reasons they're using it, they're doing it wrong. Dr. Bridget, what do you think? What do you see are the most common symptoms that bring women in to finally figure out, hey, maybe I'm either about to be in menopause or in the middle of it? What do you see?
Insomnia, sleep, night sweats, and anxiety.
Yeah,
People
it's usually
really
it's a big mental load, right? It's just really messes with your brain chemistry, I
brain
think.
fog, brain fog. But yeah, high on the list. Brain fog is
Yeah.
really, really high on the list. And I wish there
Well,
was more, when girls get their periods, there's a little bit of anticipation and celebration. And yes, you're gonna, girls have different symptoms, and some do it very easily, some are just bedridden with cramps, but there's some anticipation, right? You became a
right,
woman. And
right.
I wish there was a little bit more of understanding or even celebration or understanding when it came to menopause.
At least a little bit of grace, because
A little
if
grace.
puberty and starting your period is your entry into womanhood, how are we supposed to feel about the exit part? Like, because I'm sure that having all of those symptoms makes you feel less feminine, makes you feel less womanly, just yuck all the time. And so I know that
We
that
need to
takes a mental
redefine
toll.
that. Redefine
Mhm.
that. I don't think
Right.
that menopause is the exit. I think it is the pinnacle in some ways. Yes. Oh, you're not having to not have periods, and come on. Like,
No,
what deserves
I'm with you. I'm with
that
you.
is
I'm
the
just saying the
biggest
general way
celebration.
it's looked at. Let's celebrate. I haven't wanted to have a kid since the last one 17 years ago. Can we
Absolutely.
get over this? Yeah,
Yes. I'll
agree
share,
with
I
that.
had a hysterectomy, and I always tell people I haven't had a period since Aretha died, because when I went into surgery, her funeral was starting, and when I
Yeah,
got out, her funeral was still going on. So, but for me, it's the best thing I ever did. I think obviously I didn't do it the most natural way, but it
right.
was the necessary way for me, and I feel like I like this phase of my life is so much more interesting than
Yes.
the last chapters. And so we need to be more celebratory, but we do need to be more supportive. And I do
Yes.
think that cannabis CBD can offer that little bit of support, that maybe
I
that
do.
even that
I
little bit of
I
a
I
hug.
absolutely agree.
Yeah. And the one thing I
And
will tell
most
you is that I don't just recommend in general, um, CBD or THC. conscious of recommending CBG. Very, very conscious of that. Because
Yes.
not only has research shown that it helps with the anxiety, but the research shows that it enhances your memory.
Yeah.
Enhances your memory. And so when you're talking about what do I need in my regimen, we talk
Yeah.
about CBG needs to be on the list. And don't forget your terpenes. Don't forget other plants, your ashwagandha, your other adaptogens, your
Your
exercise,
blackseed oil. Yes.
all of the
Yes.
above. All of the above.
Yes. I love that you are also a fan of adaptogens and it's not just laser focused on cannabis, because cannabis is not a panacea. Yes, it helps so many things by regulating homeostasis in the body and cleaning out the junk and balancing things. But there are so many other, it's like we don't eat one kind of food all the time. There has to be other foods to get the different densities of nutrition so that we have a whole full spectrum of nutrition so that our body has what it needs, So I do love using other herbs, other oils, other plant medicines, and I highly recommend them. We talk about them in the store. I should probably start carrying some of them because I'm giving the health food store in Virginia's all my business.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about the most common forms of cannabis used in this survey, which I found surprising because it was all women. Number one, smoking, 84.3%, which I don't think is smart. Everybody loves it, instant gratification. I get that. But the microdose versus macrodose in a situation like that, it's not even an argument. Who wants to have to go back every hour or two when you can macrodose twice a day? That's my personal opinion. That's what I teach my customers, because when you know something's going to keep coming back, and that works, you just, on those days, just like if you get sick, you change up what you're doing a little bit to help your body recover. So smoking, 84.3%, edibles, 78.3%, which is, they're obviously interchanging these because 84 and 78 is not 100. But vaping was the third, 52.6%. And if I know you, Doc, I'm sure you're not recommending that women go out and buy pre-rolls or vapes for their menopause symptoms.
If in a perfect world, the only thing that I want you to inhale is fresh, clean air.
Right.
Now, if you find it, give me a call because I will move there with you, right?
Right.
Wherever that may be. No, I don't. I can't really say that I recommend smoking. I think there are very few cases where I say go and smoke or go and use a vape, and it's really when you need fast, immediate.
I recommend it like a rescue inhaler, a panic attack,
Absolutely. Yeah,
something like a
migraines.
breakthrough that suddenly you're having breakthrough
Yeah.
pain that's extreme, or a migraine. Now, I'll tell you, a Granddaddy Perp CBD full spec vape, 2-3 puffs maybe, will stop a migraine like a freight train.
There you go.
Crazy good.
Absolutely.
But other than that, I'm not going to vape or smoke it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what do
But
you
the fact of the
typically,
matter
in
is,
general, recommend?
it's what I'm wondering in this survey that you're looking at, where were these people located? What did they have access
They were in a
to?
legal state.
They were in a legal
They
state?
were, where they had access to everything.
Everything. Oh, well, I mean, flour is still the most common thing that is purchased, and
Yes, it is.
people have habits, and most likely, I would say the people that participated were people that were used to using cannabis on some level.
Well, they said 85.7% were at least using it once a month.
Right. So these are people
regular user.
Yeah, they've had experience already, and people stick to their habits, right? So,
Right.
I think that's probably why.
That's one of the hardest things, I think, to teach people who are long-term cannabis users, whether they're in a legal state or not, because let's be honest, we all know people do it, whether it's legal or not. But people who are like, oh, I've been doing it 30, 40, sometimes they're the hardest to teach. That I'm not telling you can never smoke weed again. I'm not telling you that. But I'm saying you've got this chronic issue and this organ issue and this mental health issue. Let's get you some medicine twice a day or as needed. And then if you want to smoke for fun, smoke for fun. But let's take care of the problem
Yes.
first, and then you do what you want with all that. You know, I
Balance.
mean, do you agree?
Balance. Absolutely.
Yes,
There needs to be
balance.
balance. And
Yes,
if you give these other ways, we have nano technology now. We have things, with our drinks from the Blossom Bar, these are nanotech.
yes,
They kick in about, 15 minutes. They last for about 3 hours.
yep.
If you don't like edibles, there's tinctures. We have a lot of, but people need to be educated on what the options are.
Yes, yes, yes. That's part of what we're trying to do here is talk about those things. I think
Yes.
for me personally, in my experience as a person and also the owner of my shop, the things that I see that are most helpful are CBD pain creams that you can rub on your back, on your belly. Bath bombs for soaking are a huge lifesaver, especially with cramps and back pain, body aches. And a daily full spectrum oil prevents, within a month of starting CBD, I quit having PMS symptoms of any kind. And so
Mhm.
I'm hopeful that as I start to transition into the menopause phase, that will be similar for me because the inflammation levels are low, and that's another reason for quitting the sugar. We got to take another break. We're going to come back in just a minute. I want to talk a little bit more about the different products because I have some more in-depth information about certain, and it's going to get a little uncomfortable, but y'all are going to be okay, and we're going to come out of this better people for it. So if you're still with us and you're a dude, thank you. And I hope you ladies are getting something out of this. So when we come back from the break, I do want to talk about more product recommendations. And we will be right back with Dr. Bridget. Welcome back, everybody. Tonight we're talking about menopause with my good friend, Dr. Bridget Williams. She is here to answer some of our questions. Doc, before the break, we were talking about the most common types of cannabis products that are used for menopause, and they listed these. You know, we get the edibles, but the smoking and the vaping is not. We both agreed that's not the first method we would recommend. I mentioned CBD creams and bath bombs. And one thing I want to talk about is suppositories. Do you
Mhm.
have very much experience with cannabis suppositories?
Yeah, I've worked with some people that actually own some of the companies, and
Nice.
they are not, at least the last time I looked, they were not allowed here in Ohio. So that was always something that we were pushing for in the dispensaries, in the dispensaries.
Right. Well,
But
and out in Alabama, we have a very limited select. Well, whenever they stop suing each other and we actually have dispensaries, we're going to have very limited product selections. And
mhm,
but suppositories is one of them. And of course, there's lots of jokes about suppositories. But in my experience, and you may know the brand Foria, we have carried the
mhm.
Foria CBD. They have two types. One is lower potency for menopause symptoms, vaginal dryness, as a more of a lubricant, and then the 110 milligram is for endometriosis, pelvic pain, colorectal issues, and from what I understand and what I've learned, been told by these companies and other medical professionals, is even though they are for what you might call vaginal symptoms, you still want to use them rectally, correct?
So there are, I've had people utilize some of these suppositories rectally and vaginally, and it just really
Well, that,
depends
like
on
I
their
said, the
symptoms.
ones, some of them are made for certain things like vaginal
Yes,
dryness, muscle
right,
pain, pain during sex, things like that, that you would use
right.
vaginally. But if you're trying to absorb it in the body as a whole and in that lower abdominal region, that rectally is more bioavailable. Is that your experience?
You should absolutely, you should be using it rectally because of how the venous system works, and you're going to be able to get a better circulation, not just for the lower half of your body, but even throughout your body using it rectally.
Right, and
So when I
I have
have
even read that
patients,
it is
mhm,
second only in bioavailability to IV. And like
so
it's right up there with the potency and bioavailability of inhalation.
yes,
Is that
however,
you think that's
a
accurate?
lot
Because
of
there's no digestion, but tons of blood vessels and nerves down in there.
right, so it's not having to go through your liver for the first pass system, which ends up it gets metabolized by the liver, and you're getting a much lower amount that
Right.
ends up going into your blood system. Now, I don't want to say the myth, but like a lot of my cancer patients will use suppositories that we teach
Hmm.
them how to make, because if you're doing the Rick Simpson protocol, which is a feco like tar-like substance, right? For full extract cannabis oil,
Yes, it's very,
it can
very
be
thick and dark.
very overpowering. And so sometimes we
Yeah.
have them use it rectally because you'll get full exposure of the medicine, but a little bit less of the high. The assumption is that
Right.
you don't get any of the high, which I think is a little bit of an overstatement because it is still
Hmm.
going to go throughout your blood system, but you won't get the same high as if you were obviously inhaling it or if it was going through your liver. So it
Right.
is a
Right. But
great option for that.
most people that are at a point where suppository is what's best for them, their last concern is this going to make me high, unless they're afraid of it, but they're not worried
Well,
about you.
true.
Nobody's doing it to get high. They're doing
No,
it
no, no.
because
Nobody's, I hope not.
yeah, they have horrible health problems, and this is the only way their
Right,
body will even accept it. When you think about
right,
cancer patients that are on chemo that are constantly vomiting, you can't give them CBD oil or an
right,
edible or anything else. They'll just
right.
throw it up. And so that is a very viable way to get them the cannabis medicine, and especially for people with low tolerance. Because I
Yeah.
know the time I tried
I've
it, a less than
mhm.
grain of rice will put you down.
Well, I've had people really struggle. They want their last days, if I'm frank about it, to be enjoyable and comfortable. And
Right.
sometimes if they're doing the Rick Simpson protocol and you're taking quite a bit of this, every day or every couple of days, you're increasing the amount, you can be so overwhelmed with the drowsiness of the
Hmm.
THC effect that they're trying to avoid some of that drowsiness. And so for some of
Right.
them, That is why they're using it, because they don't want to be high. They want to
Right.
be lucid and enjoy their family as much as they can, right? So
Right.
it is a great option. And when you can't, if you don't have suppositories, you can find some videos and we can teach you how to make them.
Yes. Well, I know the reason I brought them up specifically is because we have carried the high CBD ones, and they are incredibly effective for the symptoms of PMS, endometriosis, things like that. It stands to reason that they might also help with menopause symptoms as well. And but I think those types of products are much more suited for the symptoms that we have, at least on the cramps and back pain and discomfort on the outside, headaches. And then when we talk about edibles or an oil, that will help with the internal inflammation and the mental health stuff by balancing your brain chemistry and kind of helping you stay in the norm. Whereas your brain chemistry is trying to do what your hormones are doing and go wackadoo. It helps lower the inflammation in your body so that your body stands a chance of being able to balance itself.
Mhm.
What would you recommend for any woman or any guy listening who's got a wife at home, um, when they think they're maybe dealing with menopause symptoms, or they have unexplained mood and sleep and stress issues like that? What do you recommend? What age maybe? I guess there's really no age. You said 44, I'm 46, but my mom was 50 plus when she went through it. So,
Right.
there's really
Well,
no kind of litmus test, but what would you recommend that somebody who feels like they're getting ready to go through this or they are going through this, what would you recommend for them?
sure. So the average age for menopause is more like 51, 52. Okay.
Okay.
And number one, grace, as you said before, patience, as
Right.
tune in. You're not going crazy. You sometimes I honestly think that this period of your life is when you're most lucid in some ways, because you
Right.
start seeing things for what they really are. Okay. So be
Right.
patient with yourself and take it slow. Go and see your doctor to just see if there's anything else that may be going on. And then you have to maybe sit down with yourself, with your family, with your doctor, and decide, how do you want to approach these symptoms? This is not a death sentence. This
Right.
isn't this is when your body is changing, and honestly, it's going to be your best chapter. How do you want to
Thank you so much,
experience it?
Dr. Bridget. I'm sorry we're out of time for tonight. Tell us quickly, where can we find you?
So you can find me at drbridgetmd.com. I'm on Instagram at drbridgetmd as well. And you can email me at info@drbridgetmd.com.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us, for sharing in your personal and professional experience on such a topic that maybe makes some people uncomfortable, but we appreciate your candor and your willingness to participate. We know this isn't weird for you. You're a doctor, but it's weird for everybody else. So we just thought we'd rip the Band-Aid off, but thank you
Yeah,
so much.
absolutely. Celebrate it. Celebrate it. This is your
Yes.
best time. Your
All right.
best time.
Join us every Monday night right here on Sweet Home CannaBama, or catch the replay on your favorite podcast service, social media, and we will be debuting on TV very soon. There it is. I spilled the beans, but you don't know the details. God bless you guys. I love you. Thank you so much for your support and always tuning in. For your comments, share this video with a woman that you know might need it, even if she's not in her 40s like me. You never know. It's good information, especially if they're unsure about how to treat it naturally. Try cannabis. Thank you for being with us. Good night.